The story begins with four rugby players who decide to spend their weekend on a relaxing fishing trip out in the ocean. Four friends arrive at the marina early in the morning. Their plan is simple: head out into the ocean, catch some fish, relax for the weekend, and return home by evening. None of them realize that this ordinary weekend trip will soon become a fight for survival. For Will, this is his first time going out into the ocean, and he's clearly excited, but at the same time, he's also a little nervous. He asks if the sea is going to be rough. Marquis, who is basically acting as the captain of the boat, tells him that there might be some waves, but nothing too serious. Hearing this makes Will a little calmer. Before leaving the harbor, Corey pulls out a waterproof bag and tells everyone to put their phones inside it. He explains that the salt water in the ocean can easily damage electronics. By 6:30 a.m., the boat is already moving toward the deeper ocean. The water looks beautiful, the morning is peaceful, and hip-hop music plays from the boat speakers as the four friends enjoy the moment. Meanwhile, back on land, the Weather Channel is broadcasting a warning. Meteorologists are reporting strong, cold winds and a powerful storm forming in the upper atmosphere. Nick's mother sees the forecast on television and immediately calls him. His phone rings for a while before going to voicemail because the phone is sealed inside the waterproof bag. She leaves a message saying she just saw the weather reports and hopes Nick is aware of the storm. Out in the ocean, the group reaches their first fishing spot and drops their lines into the water. Nick quickly gets lucky. He catches a big fish and proudly shows it to everyone. Marquis laughs and says this spot never disappoints. He even gave it a name, Cooper's Hole. During the conversation, Will notices something shining on Corey's finger. It's a Super Bowl championship ring from 2002, the ring Corey won when he played for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. It represents one of the biggest achievements of his career. After some time, Marquis decides they should move even deeper into the ocean to try another fishing location. The boat speeds forward again, but as they travel, Nick suddenly begins to feel sick. The waves start hitting harder, and the motion of the boat makes his stomach churn. He gets seasick. After several hours, around 9 a.m., they finally reach Marquis' favorite fishing location, the Golden Spot. The engine is turned off, and they prepare to drop the anchor. Everything seems fine for a while, but by 1 p.m., the sky begins to darken. The storm is getting closer. The friends decide it's time to leave. Corey begins pulling up the anchor rope, but the anchor refuses to move. It's stuck deep in the rocks at the bottom of the ocean. He pulls with all his strength, but the rope stays tight and unmoving. Marquis joins him. Then all four men pull together. They are all professional athletes, strong, powerful men. But even their combined strength can't move the anchor. Meanwhile, the sky grows darker and darker. Marquis makes a decision. They'll try pulling the anchor using the boat's engine. The engine starts. The boat moves forward. The rope tightens even more. Marquis warns everyone to hold on because the boat could jerk violently. He slowly presses the accelerator. The engine roars, but instead of freeing the anchor, the rope begins pulling the back of the boat downward. The front of the boat lifts up into the air while the rear sinks deeper into the water. The boat tilts at a dangerous angle. All four men cling to the railings, staring at the tight rope behind them. And in that moment, none of them notice the massive wave approaching from the front. By the time they notice the strange sound and shifting light around them, it's already too late. The giant wave crashes directly into the front of the boat. The impact flips the boat instantly, like a giant hand slapped it over. Everything turns upside down. When the men finally surface again, they see the horrifying truth. The boat has completely flipped. Their only protection now is the hollow shell of the overturned boat floating on the surface. The four friends begin shouting each other's names, making sure everyone is still alive. Thankfully, all four respond. Marquis tells everyone to stay close to the boat because it's still floating and can support them. They attempt to flip the boat back over, but it's far too heavy. That's when Will suddenly remembers something. The anchor rope is still attached. The anchor's weight is dragging the boat downward, but they have no knife to cut the rope. So, Will takes a risk. He dives underwater and uses the sharp edge of the boat's propeller to cut the rope. After some effort, the rope finally snaps. But even after that, the boat remains upside down, and the storm is only getting worse. After drifting for nearly 30 minutes, Marquis comes up with another idea. He suggests tying the cut rope to one side of the boat and pulling together to flip it upright. The idea sounds reasonable. So once again, all four men start pulling. But far away on land, the storm is intensifying rapidly. Meteorologists are now warning that the storm could grow into a Category 2 hurricane. 5 hours after the accident, the men finally accept the truth. Flipping the boat is almost impossible. The cold ocean water is draining their strength quickly. Every attempt wastes precious energy. And in freezing water, energy means life. They have to think of another plan. Maris starts thinking about what supplies might still be inside the boat. He remembers a cooler with food and water, probably tied down with rope. Will immediately asks about life jackets. Marquis says they're stored inside the left compartment of the cabin. But there's a serious problem. If they open the cabin, water will flood inside the boat, and it could sink faster. It's a difficult decision. Keep the boat floating as long as possible or risk sinking it to get the life jackets. After thinking for a moment, they all realize the truth. The boat will eventually sink anyway, but without life jackets, they won't survive the cold water through the night. Marquis decides to go himself. As the captain, he takes responsibility and dives into the dark water. Marquis disappears beneath the freezing water, searching for the life jackets inside the overturned boat's cabin. Above the surface, the other 3 men watch nervously as the boat sinks slightly lower from the extra weight. For a few tense moments, nothing happens. Then suddenly Marquis emerges from the water, and his hands are life jackets. The others immediately feel a wave of relief. Marquis dives again and manages to bring up 2 more life jackets. After resting for a moment, he dives a 3rd time. This time he comes back with something even more valuable, a flare gun. For the first time since the accident, they feel a real sense of hope. They also know there are around 15 bottles of water still inside the cabin. If they can retrieve those, they might survive longer. This time, Corey volunteers to dive, but as soon as he goes underwater, he quickly returns to the surface in panic. He says he can't see anything down there. Just then, something unexpected happens. They hear the distant sound of a ship's horn. All 4 men instantly begin shouting and waving their arms. They fire the flare gun into the air, screaming as loudly as they can, hoping the passing ship will see them, but the ship continues moving in its direction. Slowly, the sound of the horn fades away, and eventually, the ship disappears into the storm. The hope they had just seconds earlier vanishes again. Suddenly, Nick remembers something. His bag is still tied to the boat, and his phone is inside it. If he can retrieve it, maybe they can make a call. The idea sparks new hope. Nick says he needs to warm up a little before diving. While they wait, Will tries to lighten the mood by making a joke, comparing their situation to a terrible sports record. Even though they are exhausted and freezing, a small laugh escapes them. Meanwhile, back on land, Nick's girlfriend Paula and his mother begin to worry because no one can reach them. Eventually, they decide to call the police. Out in the ocean, Nick finally dives down and manages to retrieve the waterproof bag. The others cheer. They pull out their phones and try to call for help, but every phone displays the same message. No signal. Nick screams in frustration. He shouts that emergency services should work everywhere. Satellites, something, anything. But the reality is cruel. Out in the middle of the ocean, their phones are completely useless. Marquis tells everyone to turn their phones off to save battery in case they find a signal later. Meanwhile, authorities begin to suspect something is wrong. At the marina, they find a pickup truck with an empty boat trailer, suggesting the men went out to sea and never returned. The Coast Guard is alerted and a search operation begins, but the 4 friends floating in the ocean have no idea that help is already on the way. As night falls, the storm grows stronger. Marquis begins shivering violently. His teeth chatter uncontrollably, and he can barely speak. Nick tries to encourage him. He explains that feeling cold is actually a good sign because it means the body is still fighting. The real danger begins when someone stops feeling cold. That means their body temperature has dropped so low that the brain is malfunctioning. To keep their spirits up, the friends start shouting the motivational chant they use during athletic training. Now, it isn't just a chant. It's their determination to stay alive. But suddenly, Corey notices something strange. The rain has stopped. Nick jokingly says, maybe God has answered their prayers. But at that exact moment, they hear a strange rumbling sound in the distance. It's not thunder. Something massive is moving through the water toward them. The sound grows louder. The surface of the ocean begins shifting strangely, as if something powerful is pushing the water forward. Then they see it. Another enormous wave. The wave crashes toward them like a moving wall. The impact throws all 4 men in different directions. The ocean swallows them again. For a few terrifying moments, everything is chaos. Water, darkness, and muffled screams. Eventually, they manage to find each other again and climb back onto the overturned boat. But Will cries out in pain. His leg has been cut badly, and blood is pouring into the water. Meanwhile, the Coast Guard continues preparing the rescue operation, but the storm conditions make searching extremely difficult. Back in the ocean, the situation is becoming worse. The waves repeatedly knock them off the boat. Every time they fall into the water, they must struggle to climb back up again. Each attempt drains more of their strength. Then, someone suddenly shouts. Something large is moving beneath the water. Panic spreads quickly. At the same time, Mary's condition deteriorates rapidly. He begins speaking weakly, saying he feels strange, like something inside his body is pulling him away. Nick immediately realizes what is happening. Hypothermia. Marquis's body temperature has dropped dangerously low. Soon, he begins hallucinating. He says he can see his daughter standing nearby and smiling at him. Nick shakes him desperately, telling him his daughter isn't there. But Mary's eyes slowly lose focus. The ocean that once brought him peace now seems ready to take him forever. Despite their attempts to keep him warm by pressing their bodies against his, Mark grows weaker. Eventually, he slips beneath the water and disappears. One of their friends is gone. Later that night, Corey also begins losing control. He starts behaving wildly, screaming and thrashing as if he is fighting invisible enemies. His mind can no longer separate reality from hallucinations. Not long after, Corey disappears into the ocean as well. Now, only Nick and Will remain. Two survivors floating in a dark and endless sea. Hours pass, but Will's condition is worsening. His wound has been exposed to salt water for hours, and he is becoming delirious from hypothermia. At one point, he suddenly says he feels hot, even though the ocean is freezing. Nick immediately knows what that means. It is the final stage of hypothermia. Will begins removing his clothes because he believes he is overheating. Nick desperately tries to stop him, but another massive wave crashes over them. Will is swept away. Nick grabs the rope and tries to pull him back, but Will loses consciousness. Moments later, another wave takes him completely. Nick screams his name again and again, but the ocean answers only with silence. Now Nick is completely alone. For friends had started this journey. Only one remains. For a moment, Nick screams at the sky in rage. He curses the ocean, curses fate, and curses the world. He asks why he is the only one left alive. But eventually, he remembers something his father once told him. Never be among those who give up. Nick realizes that if he survives, he will be able to tell the world how bravely his friends fought until the very end. So, he keeps holding on to the overturned boat. Back on land, the Coast Guard continues the search. Eventually, a rescue boat passes through the area, and just as Nick closes his eyes in exhaustion, someone spots him floating on the overturned boat. The discovery is reported immediately. A rescue helicopter is sent to the location. As the helicopter arrives, Nick slowly raises his head and sees it hovering above him. But he's so weak that he doesn't know if it's real or just another hallucination. The rescue crew lowers a line and pulls him up. When they ask his name, he answers weakly, "My name is Nick." Back at the command center, the moment the message arrives that Nick is alive, his family breaks down in tears of relief. But in 3 other homes, phones ring with no answer because their loved ones will never return. The search continues for several days. But Marquis Cooper, Corey Smith, and Will Bleakley are never found. The ocean has taken them forever. Nick becomes the only survivor. And although he lives, a part of him will always remain in that ocean with his 3 friends. Their courage, their fight, and their final moments will stay with him forever. Because sometimes survival stories are not just about living. They are about friendship, courage, and the promise to never give.